Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, our topic today is how to prepare images to send off to a print lab, or you could use these, the same concept, to send them off to your printer at home. All right, so I'm going to dive right in. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Here, let me share my screen. All right, so I did this image earlier, and this is of my great nephew, Owen, and little Jovi. I did a quick photo shoot of them while I was up visiting in New York. While I was there, what I ended up doing is I did the shoot, quickly processed the images, sent them off to a local Walmart. Yes, you heard me say that correctly. A local Walmart, could be Walgreens, CVS, any of the local stores, sent it off to them. They printed them. Then I was able to give them to their parents right there on the spot. Now, for our friends that are overseas, in the UK, Germany, there's a few of you coming in from Japan, I apologize, I don't have a whole list of print labs you could use over there, but the concept I'm going to show you here will help you when you send them off to your printers, all right? So let's get started with it. All right, I'm going to start from scratch. So from Edit, I'm going to come over to the History panel and just click Original Image. Now, I did create a template for this. So just to save time, because we're really not talking about processing, we're talking about printing. So under my user templates, here it is, Jovi and Owen. So now I have it set. Now, since I know I'm going to send this off to be printed, I'm going to be a little gracious or a little extra on the details on both printing and on the screen. So what I mean by that is this. I'll come over here to details, and I'm going to bump up the medium details just a little bit more than I normally would. Now, on screen, it may look a little excessive. When it prints, it'll look just fine. So we're going to bump up the printing, or bump up the medium details just a bit. Now, here's where I have to decide. Excuse me. Before I do that, let me show you here. Look at the size of the actual print. So currently we're dealing with 5520 by 3680. So how big can we actually print this? Well, let me come over to here to show you. Now, to get to this web page, it's on photo focus, but if you type in, I'll do it over here for you, luminar.tips/print size. Luminar.tips/print size. It'll take you right to that page, and I did that for you. So here it tells you how you could do a formula to determine how many megapixels you have for your camera and so on. We're going to come down to the bottom, and we're going to do calculation of the largest print size that you could print at 300 ppi. Now, most print labs are going to tell you they want 300 ppi. That's not DPI. DPI is dots per inch. PPI is pixels per inch. In the old days, you would just double it. That's why 150 ppi was roughly 300 dpi. Nowadays, if you notice, your camera spits out, most of them, 240 pixels per inch. And the concept behind that was because most of the printers were 720 pixels per inch. So if you do 240 plus 240, and then you added more, let's see, 240 plus 240 plus 240, you came out with 270. So let's pull up a calculator here. So here's 240, plus another 240, plus another 240. There was that magic number 720. The printers are so sophisticated nowadays that that doesn't matter. Because in the past, what would happen is people would, let me clear that, 300 pixels per inch, oh, another 300 pixels per inch, another one, now there's 900. So then if you minus the 720, somewhere 180 pixels got thrown out. So that was the old technology in printing. Nowadays, the print labs say don't even worry about it. Just give us it at a good resolution. They like to see 300 pixels per inch. Me personally, I get away with 180 because I want the file size to be smaller. But again, that's entirely up to you, and we'll talk about how you can get quality with it. So with that being said, let me go back to my nephew. 500 or 5,520. So if I take that number, 5,520, and I divide it by 300, the largest I could print that on the longest end is 18.4 inches. That's a pretty big print. If we look at the other size, 3,680. Here it is again. 3,680 divided by 300, 12. So I could print an 18 by 12 print of that and still keep the quality that I'm looking for. All right. So now that we know the maximum print size, I know that I took this photo pretty bad. So look right here. I shot it at 1/40th of a second with a friggin' 200 millimeter lens and a Nikon D850 or D810, which was a very heavy camera. I noticed there's camera shake. So the eyes are not as tack sharp as they could be. So I use the editing inside Luminar to kind of hide some of the defects. My sister absolutely loves this photo, so that's why we're printing it. Normally, I'd have to throw it away and say, it's not one of the shots I would put into my portfolio, but it's a good family memory photo. So we fixed it in Luminar. Now we're going to go over and print it. So from the edit menu, composition. Now we already said how large we could print it. I'm going to keep it with a 5x7. So a 5x7 is a good ratio. And by the way, did you notice something? When we invoke the crop, any changes we've made temporarily disappears for a moment. When we enter, they come back again. Now the engineers did that just to make it faster and quicker with the crop tool. All right? So now that we have that set, I can export this, save it to disk, and I can still save it as a JPEG. And for the sharpening, let's put medium. So now we already sharpened it inside Luminar. Now we're going to sharpen it again just a bit, medium, and send it off to the print lab. I like Adobe RGB. Some print labs will tell you to stick with sRGB. And the reason why they say that is that's the most common color space. It doesn't let in the wide gamut that Adobe RGB does or ProPhoto. So I like to be right in the middle. I like Adobe RGB, and there's that 240 pixels per inch. Quality, you can get away with 75, and that's fine. If you put everything to the max and you send these huge images to them to print, it's only going to take longer for them for you to upload it, longer for them to download it, longer for them to print it. So you have to finesse it a bit. And the best way to finesse it is to send a couple samples to your print lab, and then when you get them back, you'll be able to compare and say, I see, I can get away with 240 pixels per inch full size. I can get away with Adobe RGB. I notice it looks better than sRGB. That's just you spending a little extra time finding a lab you like and then working with them on getting the best possible prints you can have. All right? So we have that set. I can export it to a hard drive or to my hard drive, or I can come over here. I like to send it off to SmugMug because I do have an account with them. With that, my family can go on, download the prints, or I can set it as a family rate that whatever SmugMug charges me for printing, that's what they'll charge my family. The only downside is shipping is pretty expensive. 500px, same concept, but with SmugMug, you can print them on coffee mugs, you can make blankets out of them. There's a lot of different things you could do, but again, that's entirely up to you on how and what you want to print them on. But to prepare it, we have it set. Now we can send it off to the printer and we're ready to go. All right, let's see if we have any questions coming in. Good. Hello, everyone. Now, is Wolfgang. So, let's see what my buddy Wolfgang. Let me hide me. I'll try that again. A good late evening. What I always wanted to know, but was afraid to ask. Wolfgang, you're allowed to ask anything you want. And on Zoom, it's a little bit easier because we are able to be more interactive. What I will do though is I will talk about, or I will after we're done, go back and look at some of the comments and try to answer them for you. Okay, awesome. Good. Oh, awesome. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. The canvas came out great. Now, and speaking of that, thanks for reminding me. Let me switch over to my website again. All right. And again, Angela came up with these three right here. These are her go-to print labs: White Wall, Bumblejack, CG Go prints, and then mine that I absolutely love is MPIC Pro, Miller Lab. Now, and again, for our friends overseas, I apologize, I don't have a whole list of yours. I'll get together with some of our ambassadors across the pond and ask them who they go through, so we'll have a list. Keep in mind, Skylum is not endorsing any of these whatsoever. Just as a professional photographer, to professional photography, these are the ones I use. Now, Miller Lab also owns MPIC and MPIC Pro. So why all three? MPIC is for the consumer. MPIC Pro is for the pro consumer. And then Miller Lab is for the professionals that do more of the school type photography, the step and the repeat. So a lot of my sports portraits that I do, where I have 70 kids lined up, subject one comes in, click, take a picture, next one, and they all look the same. The only difference is the subject. That's called step and repeat. Think of it as your school photos. Miller Lab can do something like 2 8x10s, 4x7s, and 10 of those little wallets for like $10. And the quality is absolutely amazing. And the best part with Miller Lab, you get it the next day. So it's next day, free shipping. MPIC Pro, I believe it's 2-day free shipping, and then MPIC, you have to pay for it. If you don't have time to send it off to a print lab, that's where Shutterfly, SmugMug, or even your local Walgreens or Walmart come in, because you can upload it to their site and then send a link to your family and friends, and then they can order online, and it's completely out of your hands, and you don't have to worry about printing them. Now, obviously, if you're a photographer who makes a living selling prints, that's not the option to go. That's where SmugMug comes in and a few of the other online galleries, all right? So let's check again to see. Let me check again to see if there's any other questions. Good. Okay. Yeah, so Pat, do we actually have Zoom meetings? Yes, the Zoom meetings, and I'll thank you for mentioning that. Let me pull that up for you. If you go to, let's see. Yep, Luminar Insiders. Here we go. So if you go to Luminar AI Insiders, You can create your own little portfolio, your own little profile. Then from here, under events, you'll see we have coffee breaks scheduled throughout the entire week, and every Friday is a is a recap of what we did throughout the week. The same episodes that we're showing you here, we start out on Zoom, and then a week later, you get the episodes that we cover here. What's really good about the Zoom meetings is you get to sit and talk face on one-to-one. So what we try to do is get all of the meat and potatoes done. So in the first 10, not even 8 minutes of the show, I showed you how to prepare your images for print. The remaining time is for questions and answers, or they have suggestions for future shows. So if you want to join us, because you're part of Luminar AI, you could join the Luminar Insiders program. So again, that's insiders.skylum.com. All right. Let's see. Ooh, okay, good. And here's a quick question. Good. When will Bokeh AI release Luminar AI? If you look, let's see. Let me pull it up here. There is a scheduled release coming out soon for more for maintenance and a few others, which will be coming out pretty soon. But if we come over here to Luminar, and let's see, explore, sorry. There we go, I was getting a little too click happy. Here's faxes. All right, we did have our roadmap on here. Thanks for mentioning that. I'm going to check with them and find out. Thanks again for asking that question. I'll check with them on the exact time frame that we're looking for with Bokeh AI. We're all excited. I mean, as photographers, we're extremely excited with that and Sky AI 2.0. I can't wait for those two to come out. It's just going to be another tool we could use to be creative. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's see. So let's back up to Wolfgang. Hit me. Not sure I understand the calculation, but keep the 240 in my mind. Good. So, hey, Wolfgang, here's the best part is, I was already on it, sorry, is if you just remember this page right here, luminar.tips/print size. Right here, you can read through it. And I just like to keep this off to the side. But here's the calculation I did here at 300 pixels per inch. So that 240, I mean, so if you did it at 240, you're still fine. But like I said, this is the calculation. You take the width in inches, or the pixels per inch, divide it by 300, or divide it by 240, and that'll tell you in inches how big you can actually print that image. All right? So just keep that page as a bookmark, and then just reference it. Just keep in mind, anything over 5,000, you're good to go. I mean, the way our cameras are nowadays, it's typically when you decide to crop something really, really, really tight, and you end up with something like 1920 by 1080. Well, let's do the math. So if we had a 1920, right, divided by 300, I can make that size is 6.4 inches. And we said 1920 by 1080. So I could print that by a 4x6. So a 1920 by 1080 is something you'd put on your screen. You can get away with printing that into a 4x6, a really small size. All right? So again, that's if you did a lot of cropping. So I hope that helped. Awesome. Well, this is great. And again, if you guys are available, you can check us out on Luminar Insider, and we can have more one-on-one Zoom talks to where you can actually ask not just the questions we're talking about here, but other questions. And usually the insiders are the ones who, quote, get the inside tips, and they get to learn a lot of new cool things a little bit ahead of everyone else. That's just our way of saying thank you for being a Skylum AI member. All right? So hopefully we'll see you guys over on Insiders also. If not, we'll continue to see you here on Facebook or on YouTube. And please, if you can, hit that thumbs up. Our producers like seeing the like button up there. All right? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you at the next coffee break.